In today's episode, we talk about a possible duplex conversion that we actually didn't get to do, but we are going to run through what we saw and the numbers that we offered the seller. Check it out. Welcome to another episode of Same Page. We are your hosts, Sarah Semajist.
And I'm Lenard Semajist.
Today we're going to talk about this potential duplex conversion that we saw. It was a single family home that we saw in Vanier, Ottawa. We didn't do the deal, but we wanted to walk you through what we saw and why we actually didn't end up taking the property. So let's just describe what we saw and then what it was like.
Okay.
So what was it advertised at? It was something that we found on Kijiji.
That's correct, exactly. So I was going through Kijiji. I saw that this ad was actually this property was being sold by the owner, off market deal, so it was advertised as a 2-bedroom and a 1.5 bath.
For how much?
For $499.
Okay.
$1,000.
$499 cash.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we went to see the property, and this is what we saw. We walked in. It had a side entrance. We walked into the side entrance. So they advertised it as 2-bedroom.
Yeah.
It was actually a 1-bedroom and a den. The second bedroom that they advertised was in the living room. The person who was living there was a little bit older, so they can no longer go up and down the stairs. So they decided to make a bedroom in the living room. Yeah. Which is fine. Yeah. But it's not an official bedroom.
Exactly.
So we go upstairs and we see the actual bedroom, and then there's a den. We looked at, could we convert that den to a second bedroom? And the answer was no, we couldn't. Yeah. First of all, the size, it was very small. The way the roof was actually slanted took out a big chunk of the space.
Of the headspace, yeah.
And you had to go through the den to go to the bedroom.
Exactly.
So you couldn't really separate the 2 bedrooms unless you created a hallway, but there wasn't enough space for all of that.
And then ideally too, I guess this will also be our next point, is that we're hoping that we're going to see a bathroom upstairs, or some type of powder room, and there was none of that either. Yes,
so there's no bathroom or powder room upstairs. So going back to the main floor, the kitchen was in good shape, but outdated. On the main floor, we saw a powder room, but no full bathroom. The full bathroom was actually in the basement, which in itself is very inconvenient. In order to convert this property into a duplex like we wanted to, we would have had to add a full bath in that powder room, and the space was kind of tight. It was possible, but tight, and we were trying to figure out where we would take the space from. Went down to the basement. As we mentioned, there was a second entrance, which was perfect because then you could just close it off and make it a duplex. Go into the basement. What did we see in the basement?
So first thing we saw is that so there was an area for the laundry. And then after that, there was like kind of like a not so big room. It was like I want to say roughly maybe almost like an 11 by 11 size room. And then there was a full bathroom, and the full bathroom was very deceiving because it was actually really tight. There was like a small sink and everything like that. And then you had all the like as far as like the hot water tank, the furnace, and the electrical panel was all at the back of the house.
Right. So we could have potentially converted that space into a bachelor apartment. But we looked at the ceiling height, and I think it was about 6'1", 6'2", and we found out that the minimum height for a place that you can actually live in is, I think, 6'5".
Or 6'4", yeah.
6'4",
yes.
Okay. So we were a couple of inches short. So we did look into what it would cost to either dig deeper or apparently you can raise the house, which I was like, if we have to do that, the deal's not worth it.
That's pretty cool, though.
But yes, that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the ceiling height was too short for the duplex conversion that we wanted to do, right? So after we saw the house, it wasn't a 2-bedroom. It was actually a 1-bedroom and a den. We went to the seller, and what was the discussion like with the seller?
The first thing was like, how'd you come up with the price? Then they're basically comparing it to what was sold across, like what was sold in the area recently. But then looking at those comparables that we had access to thanks to our comp realtor, the finishings were totally different. Like the ones that sold for around that price were a lot more modern and like had great finishes. And also those were at least 2 actual bedrooms and at least 2 full baths in each property. And so one thing that I made sure to point out to the seller is that you guys advertise it as a 2-bedroom, but really it's more of a 1-bedroom and a den. And then they're like, okay, that's fine. So then we submitted our offers.
Yes. Before we talk about the offer, I forgot to mention what the outside looked like. First of all, it had 1 meter. So for a duplex, either we would have to add a second meter.
Yeah.
The zoning allowed for it.
What
was the zoning?
It was an R3.
R3. So in R3, you can have duplexes. It had a garage and parking space for maybe like 7 cars, like a very long driveway. So that was perfect. Okay, so what did we offer?
So we offered $370,000.
Okay, so purchase price that they advertised was $499.
Yeah.
We offered $370. And how did we come up with that number? Why?
We basically come up with the number because we basically estimated the rental costs at being well over $100,000. I believe it came out to around like $130,000, mainly because of the full gut job that we'd have to do in the basement, and also having to lift the house, and then having to redo both bathrooms, adding a shower to one of the bathrooms to make it an actual full one, and also adding a kitchen downstairs and redoing the kitchen upstairs.
Yes.
So like a lot of times those are your bigger costs whenever you have to do the bathroom and the kitchens. Like on average, you're looking at 10 to 15K for each.
Yeah. For the kitchen, definitely
closer to 15.
Closer to 15K.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the new prices here.
Yeah.
Now. So yeah. So we came up with $130,000 for the rental cost. And plus, if we were to BRRRR this, which means like refinance, do you remember what the ARV we thought that it was?
The ARV was, I believe, was around $600,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'd be able to pull out all our equity, when all our money and all the rental costs once we refinance.
Exactly.
So we had to be at around $400,000 all in.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry, $500,000 all in.
Yeah.
And so we offered $370 as a $370. And what was the second offer?
The second offer was we offered a little bit more. But since after having discussions with the seller, we found out that the house was completely paid for, and there was like actual lots of equity in that property. So we asked if the second offer was like a VTB, in a sense that we're looking for 100% VTB, offered $400,000, and for like a 1-year term, interest only payments.
And just for anybody who doesn't know, a VTB is seller financing when they actually give you the mortgage. So instead of paying the mortgage to the bank, you're paying the mortgage to the seller, and you set the terms yourself, whether it's like 4%, 5%, 3%, and you set obviously the price. But you can only do that when the seller has equity in the home. And in this case, the seller had paid off the entire property. So which means that they have, if it's $500,000, they can give you the whole $500,000 as a mortgage. And typically banks will give you 80% loan to value.
Exactly.
So if the property is worth $500,000, they might lend you $400,000, which is 80% of 500. But the seller can decide to give you 100% loan to value, they probably won't do that because, most of them want a little bit of cash in their pocket, but it is possible.
Yeah.
So why didn't we do that deal?
Simply put, they didn't accept our offers.
Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes you try to play with the numbers to make it fit, and it was such a big job that if we're just a little bit off and we negotiated a higher price, it wouldn't have worked, and we may not have been able to refinance all the money out. And typically we use investors' money, and it's very important for the investors to get their money back within the time frame that we promised. So if the numbers don't fit, we don't do the deal. Exactly. And that is just simple as that.
Absolutely.
All right. So that was the latest deal that we looked at that we didn't do. Sometimes you do need to talk about these because you learn a lot from them. For example, we didn't know that you could raise a house, which, like I mentioned, I wouldn't do it. But it's every walkthrough that we do is a learning opportunity, whether you do the deal or not. Sometimes it's irrelevant. It's more what you learn from it.
Exactly. And then one thing that I learned is that it's very important to have those conversations with the seller, not only to negotiate, but also just to kind of get a little background as to how they came up with their purchase price, if they're open to do seller financing. And then just kind of building that rapport to kind of ease with that whole process.
Right. All right. That was our episode. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to live your truth.